Ladies and gentlemen, this is it, part 3 of the 2020 Blu-ray wrap-up party for Blureel Studios. This Steelbooks, yes, finally, I know a lot of you have been waiting for this moment because as many collectors, I do like the Steelbooks as well. So on this episode, we're going to dive in all of the Steelbooks that I acquired since February last year. So, without further ado, roll the intro! So the one that I most recently acquired is this one, The Return of the Living Dead, the Steelbook. I love this movie. This is the kind of sequel to Night of the Living Dead by George A. Romero. It's a weird story concerning the rights of the Living Dead property. That's the reason why George A. Romero's films were called Dawn of the Dead and not Dawn of the Living Dead, as well as Day of the Dead instead of Day of the Living Dead. It's all concerning rights and it's a whole mess of things. But this film actually kind of released at the same time period as Day of the Dead and outshined it in terms of financial success. Even though Day of the Dead is probably my favorite film of the two, I cannot deny that this film is pretty much amazing. And the Steelbook is beautiful, as you can see. Yeah, I love this film. If you want to check it out, please do. It is a classic. It has some dark humor in there. It's a fun story, fun characters. It's really fast-paced, a lot of fun. Check it out. A film that I acquired in Just Movies, my favorite Blu-ray store, is Kick-Ass. Yeah, the film is awesome. It's very funny, it's very violent, and it has one of the best characters in cinema history, Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl, and of course, I mean, Nicolas Cage as Big Daddy. I mean, oh yes! This film is awesome. Recently I acquired a 4K Steelbook for one of my favorite films of all time. If you're familiar with this channel, you kind of know which film it is. It is Old Boy. Arrow Video released this Steelbook. I already acquired the collector's edition last year, or 2 years ago. But this Steelbook is beautiful, and it's a 4K version of the film. There's some debossing and embossing on the title and the edges. I love the design of it. And on the back we have the fist with a squid in it because he wants to eat something alive. I mean, if you've seen the film and you know the references and the smiling, of course, the insane smiling. Yeah, I love this movie. If you've never seen it, please check it out. And watch the Korean version so that the performances really shine, because the performances in the film are some of the best aspects of the film. Up next, a very obscure Steelbook film, Razorback. I have a weird relationship with this movie. So back in the day, when I was a kid, one of the TV channels in our country used to air a Halloween special every Halloween. So they would air, I think, 4 to 5 horror movies. And they went from very mainstream to very obscure as the night would progress. So the later you stayed up, the more obscure of a horror film you would get to see. And one of these films was this one, Razorback. It's about a giant killer warthog in the outback of Australia. Yeah, it is as amazing as it sounds. Now, to be honest, I forgot about this film, or at least the title, but what stuck with me is a particular theme, a particular piece of music that would come to my mind every so often. And I would be like, oh, what's this film about? I remember certain scenes, certain shots, and I remember it's about a giant warthog. What is this film called? And I was like, we have a Google machine in our pockets, so I could just Google that stuff. And I found the title. I was like, oh yeah, Razorback, of course. A year passes, and I go to a storefront, a digital storefront of a store I usually go to physically, and I search for Steelbook Blu-rays, and lo and behold, they have a Steelbook for Razorback. Not only is the Steelbook amazing, by the way, it comes with a lot of bonus features at that. If you've never seen this film, it is amazing. I love it. It's like Jaws, but in the Australian outback and with a giant warthog instead of a shark. It's kind of cheesy at times, but serious at others. It's really well shot, well acted. There are some fantastic sequences in there. There are some visually stunning moments in there. The use of lighting and contrast is amazing. Well, I will say though, the ending is kind of the limitations of the budgets are very apparent in the ending. They kind of outreach their ambition, but I still think it's a fantastic film. And with the Steelbook, yeah, I can only praise it even more. Iron Man 3, probably one of the most underrated films of the MCU. I love this movie. I think in terms of writing, in terms of character development, I think it's my favorite film of the Iron Man films. I think that Shane Black did a fantastic job. There are some amazing action scenes in the film as well. Thinking of the rescue scene after the plane explodes. Yeah, I love this movie. It's fantastic. And this Steelbook is very special because it has like, there's no art card or J card. There's just this on the back. I paid $3 for this film on Amazon, so yeah, and it's a fucking beautiful Steelbook. So keeping up with the Marvel theme, we have Spider-Man Homecoming, the Lenticular. I don't know if you can really tell it, but this is the 3D Lenticular Steelbook, which is still in the plastic because I want to keep it pristine, but I'm a completionist, so when Zombie came out with the Steelbook, you know I had to pick it up. Up next, one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, the 4K Steelbook. Love this movie. I absolutely am in love with this film. It's so great. It's such a great setup, such a great twist, even though the twist is so iconic that it's not even a twist anymore because everybody knows about it. But I can only imagine what it was like watching this film when it was released. And yeah, I mean, great performances, fantastic ending. Just one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion. The Steelbook, I wish, was kind of more glossy, or some debossing and embossing was going on, but still, it's a very minimalistic and effective design, in my opinion. Up next, one of the greatest films of 2019, Parasites, the 4K Steelbook. Beautiful Steelbook, beautiful artwork. When I open this one up, you can just see how gorgeous this thing is. The layout of the house where it all happens, and inside we have 4 discs, all of them with very similar artwork. So we have the 4K, the regular Blu-ray, the DVD, as well as the bonus features. So in a 4K Steelbook, there's a DVD in there. Like, why would I even? So keeping up with the kaiju mood that I was in recently, I acquired several Steelbooks last year that fit the description. We have Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the 4K Steelbook. Beautiful Steelbook for a pretty great film. I wish it was better than it was, but still, I love this Steelbook. Godzilla on the front and King Ghidorah on the back. Keeping up with Godzilla, I have another Steelbook for Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This one is the 3D Steelbook. And yeah, I love the design on this one. It's a pretty different thing. I don't know what's on the back because I keep it in the plastic. I want to keep this one pristine. A Steelbook I acquired in Just Movies is Godzilla 3D. This is the 2014 version. Comes in a beautiful Steelbook. Look at the back. The halo drop. Amazing Steelbook. Another one I picked up last year is another Godzilla Steelbook. This one is like, feels nostalgic for some reason. It's like a callback to poster or artworks from the 1940s, 50s, or 60s. I don't really know how long Godzilla has been around, but it's been several decades. So that's the first batch of Steelbooks. I'm gonna grab the second one. We're not even halfway there, so grab something to drink, get some soda, something to eat, enjoy, settle in, and we'll dive into some more Steelbooks. So before we dive into the second batch of Steelbooks, I gotta showcase some Blu-rays that I forgot to mention on the last episode. Starting off with The Blob, the remake from 1988. Yeah, this is written by Frank Darabont, who has gone and made The Shawshank Redemption, The Mist. Fantastic director and writer, and he put his creative hands on this monstrosity. The Blob, the collector's edition, with a lot of bonus features and I cannot wait to dive into them. When I was shopping in one of the stores I usually go to, I found this beauty. This is the collector's edition for the Day of the Dead. This is the French release, and yeah, it's like one of my favorite films of all time. I have a beautiful steelbook for it from Arrow Video, but when I came across this, you know I had to pick it up. A collector's edition for one of my favorite films of all time. It's a slipcover, and inside we have Bob saluting. And on the other hand, we have Lieutenant Rhodes being overrun by the undead. Open this one up, we have Flyboy on the inside. 2 discs, the DVD and the Blu-ray. And our scientists looking shocked at what they're doing. And then we have a poster, which is basically the same poster as on the artwork. Yeah, I love this movie. I love this collector's edition. I am so happy that this film got picked up and got some Blu-ray treatment, even from Arrow Video, but also from other companies. I'm a sucker for collector's editions, and especially for my favorite films, and I'm willing to double dip if I come across one. So this was a no-brainer. No, but this one is really great. I love this movie a lot, and it was awesome to see it get some love and some recognition from Stranger Things. If you were wondering what film they're watching in season 3 in the theaters, it's this one. Up next we have James Gunn first dipping in the superhero genre with Super Shut Up Crime. Yeah, this film is hilarious. It's so great, and I have a lot of fun with it. It's very violent, very brutal, very over the top, but it's so fun. It's so well written, so well made. Kevin Bacon is awesome in this movie. But Rainn Wilson steals the show as as our main hero, and his main weapon is a wrench. And he beats up thugs with it. It's hilarious. A very disturbing film I acquired last year is Possum. I mean, look at the artwork alone. It's ooh, it's creepy as hell. So basically, it's a film about a puppeteer who, at the beginning of the film, has lost his job or has lost his standing in the community because of something that happened, or something that he's being accused of, which I won't dive into too much. But there is a lot of stuff going on in this film, and Sean Harris, who you know as the villain from the Mission Impossible series, is great in this movie. There are some disturbing sequences in the film, there are some disturbing revelations as well, and it all hinges on a performance that is so daring and so great. Yeah, the film isn't for everyone because a lot of the sequences are Sean Harris's character interacting with this puppet. A lot of long scenes, a lot of repetitive scenes in a lot of ways, but I find it very disturbing, and it all culminates in an ending that is very unique, I want to say. But the actual final ending, though, I wish was kind of handled better, or left a bit more ambiguous. It's kind of straightforward. But then again, there's still some things to be analyzed and pondered about. It's a great film, but it's certainly not for everyone. It's a very slow-paced movie that is a lot more symbolic than it is literal. And if you're not into that kind of stuff, don't even pick this one up. Now, let's get back to the order of the day. The business we have to get to. The Steelbooks. Diving in to 1917, the 4K Steelbook. Yeah, I saw the film in the theaters back when we were able to go to the theaters. I had a great time. I think it's a fantastic film. It's a technical masterpiece. The one-shot illusion is done so well, and there are certain shots, if you know what you're looking for, that you can pick up on, but others I didn't even know happened because they used CGI in places you weren't even expecting it. Corridor made a video on the process of this film, and it's great. Just check it out if you get a chance. But this film is great. The Steelbook is very straightforward. Some debossing on the title there. Some great images with the teal and blue coloring. Yeah, the film was great. I'm a sucker for good war films, and this was one of them. Up next, we have a 4K Steelbook for a film that I watched religiously when I was a lot younger than I am now. I think I was like 15 years old when this one came out. I think 16 even. But when 300 was released, I watched this film over and over and over again. So it's a no-brainer that I had to pick up the 4K Steelbook, which is absolutely stunning. The illusion of this being a hand-drawn image is beautiful and fits with the comic book style of the film. I mean, look at the artwork. It's absolutely stunning. And the film is great. And Zack Snyder is back at it again, and I really want to see Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. This 4-hour monstrosity. I just want to see it. Up next, we have Bad Boys for Life. Probably the best Bad Boys film in the series. And it's being directed by two of my fellow countrymen, Adil and Bilal, who are set to direct Beverly Hills Cop 4, if that ever happens at least, or Bad Boys 4, which I hope they get to do, because this film is actually pretty damn fun. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a Bad Boys film, and they tap into what makes these characters great, and they put some great action forward, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, Bad Boys for Life. It's a missed opportunity though. If this was the 4th film, you could do like, you know, Bad Boys and then the number 4 and then Life, but they didn't do that. Up next we have Joker, the 4K Steelbook. It's a double dip. So, I mean, I love this movie. It's fantastic. Fantastic performance by Joaquin Phoenix. So it's a no-brainer that when I saw this laying around in France, that I had to pick it up. Joker, the 4K Steelbook. The back, I mean, yeah, it's still in the plastic, so we'll never get to see what the back looks like. Up next, another kaiju classic, a trilogy of films that is amazing. I recently watched all of them, and I had so much fun. They're so well made, and I wish that this character could come back in a new film. I would definitely go out and see it. It's Gamera, the Heisei trilogy, the Arrow Video Steelbook. Look at the artwork. This is Gamera from the first film, Guardian of the Universe, with Gaius, the bird creature that he has to fight, and in the second one, this is Legion in the film Attack of Legion. Yeah, this trilogy is amazing. I love these movies so much. They're comprised of suitimation, as they call it, which means a guy in a suit and scale models of cities to destroy, which sounds cheesy when I lay it down like that, and you're probably remembering Power Rangers. But trust me, guys, it's so fun, it's so well made, and it's actually pretty damn epic. And the way they incorporate these special effects with actual scale models, and it's so great. You have to watch for yourself to get the full experience. And with this trilogy, it's the perfect time to pick it up on Blu-ray. The Fifth Element by Luc Besson, the 4K Steelbook. The artwork is amazing. I have never seen the film, but I used to own the PS1 game, and that's all I really knew about the movie. And watching it, it's really, it's a really weird movie, but very creative, a lot of fun. It's not perfect, but I can see why it's a classic in some respects, because it's so out there, it's so bonkers, it's so creative and colorful, and Bruce Willis still tried back in these days. Yeah, it's fun. It's not for everyone. A lot of you guys are gonna get weirded out beyond belief, but I think it's charming. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it showcases that Luc Besson actually has talent. I wish he would showcase it more with his recent films, but at least we know that this guy can make a fun concept, an interesting concept, and some fun, creative sci-fi ideas. So I wish he would do more of that. Staying in cheesy science fiction land, we have Flash Gordon, the 4K Steelbook. One of the arguably worst films ever made, especially considering that this is a Swedish guy playing an Asian stereotype. Yeah. But the only reason I really bought this on Blu-ray, because I had fond memories of watching it as a kid with my father, and more so because this right here, music by Queen. The opening credit scenes are the most euphoric and amazing credit scenes you'll ever see, with Queen blasting on the background, well, on the foreground, if you really want to get down to it. It's a weird story about a football player who gets involved with a intergalactic plot. It's really dumb, colorful, and a lot of fun. Flash Gordon is a pretty bad movie, but it's charming and a lot of fun to watch. Now, getting into some Marvel Steelbooks, we have 4 of them. Some of them I didn't really acquire last year, but I want to showcase them off. Infinity War, the first Steelbook that I acquired, and one of my favorites that Marvel has released. The imagery is amazing. The gauntlet looks stunning. The actual gems have their very own gloss. It's a beautiful, beautiful Steelbook. Thanos, look at this eye even, look at the detailing there. Beautiful Steelbook, and on the back we have the Avengers logo. Yeah, gorgeous Steelbook, my favorite probably from the bunch. So, Avengers Infinity War, the Lenticular Steelbook. Yeah, the design is amazing. The black and then the coloring, the contrast is beautiful, and on the back is the best thing ever. Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, looking menacing as hell. Yeah, beautiful Steelbook, awesome movie. Arguably better than Endgame, in my opinion. This is Avengers Endgame, the Lenticular Steelbook. I can take this out because it has a half slip. I love the lenticular magnet on there. You can peel it off and put it on your fridge if you want to. And on the back we have Thanos standing on the rubble. And if you look closely, you can actually see that this is actually an A. An A for Avengers. Yeah, fantastic film. Brilliant conclusion to the Infinity Saga. Very emotional, very impactful. Yeah, I love it. This is another Steelbook for Endgame. This is not my favorite Steelbook. I wish this was done better, or there was something special about it. Besides that, the fact that these are the characters that survived the snap, and these are the characters that are snapped away. You know, symbolizing the A turned to dust. Yeah, I love the film. The Steelbook I wish was a little bit better, but I have a great Steelbook with the lenticular one, so I'm not a complainer at all. That's the second batch of my Steelbooks that I acquired last year. Let's jump into the third one. We're almost halfway there. Just 1 second. So, we're gonna dive into some Christopher Nolan Steelbook for the occasion of celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Inception, as well as the release of Tenet. Most, or if not all, of Nolan's films were released on Steelbooks. The Prestige, the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception got a Steelbook, Interstellar. But we'll go through some of them because I acquired some of them. But first off, we're gonna start off with Tenet, the 4K Steelbook. Yeah, it was an amazing experience to see this film in theaters the way it was meant to be seen, in my opinion. It's not Nolan's best, and not even my favorite of his, but it is ambitious in a lot of ways. It's a fantastic film on a technical level, and the story, yeah, it's kind of confusing. But the same thing was said about Inception, but if you kind of pay attention, you kind of figure out what's going on. I know what happens in this movie and why it happens in the film. The question of how certain things happen is still a mystery, but I think knowing the why and the what, I think is the most important aspect, especially for a spy thriller. The airplane scene is amazing as advertised, but the final battle, the war in this little city, is fantastic with a building exploding in reverse and forwards at the same time. Oh man, brilliant imagery, fantastic film in a lot of ways. Not for everyone, because Nolan has some kinks in his armor, and they show in this film. Having Michael Caine sitting down at a table and literally explaining aspects of the plot or characters and their dynamics and relationships with each other that we haven't even seen. Yeah, I mean, at this point, Michael Caine can play the same character in all of Nolan's films. Maybe it's a shared universe. Maybe he is the same character in every film, and he is Mr. Exposition. It's something that Nolan really can't get rid of. It's a weakness, in my opinion, in his writing. But he has to set up certain things, especially in a sci-fi concept like this, that you need to know as an audience member so that he can then go on and give us this action, these amazing set pieces, these creative concepts. But they have to be explained first, and unfortunately he hasn't really found a better way to do so than having Michael Caine sitting down and explaining it to us. But I still love the film. It's an 8 out of 10 in my book, and the Steelbook is gorgeous. Just because I'm a completionist, I picked up the Belgian version as well, the version that was released in my country. It's a different Steelbook, but very beautiful as well, but I love the other one better. I leave this one in the plastic to keep it pristine, because that's how I am. Up next, one of my favorite films of all time. I mean, it's literally on my arm for life. It's Interstellar, the Steelbook, the Blu-ray Steelbook that was released last year as part of the Nolan Steelbook lineup of films. Yeah, it's one of my favorite designs for the poster, and using this as the artwork is awesome. This is the third Steelbook that I own for this movie. Alright, I'll show you the other two as well. So the second copy I have for Interstellar is this one. This is a very minimalistic design for Interstellar. This is part of the iconic moments by Warner Brothers. They have released several Steelbooks in this lineup, including this one, Interstellar, which is a very basic design. A blue background, the endurance on there, and the back is just the same color blue with nothing on there. So that's why it's in a plastic, because, you know, the first Steelbook I acquired, and probably my favorite. I love the design, I love the coloring on this one, and the back is beautiful. Love this movie, love this Steelbook. Up next we have Dunkirk, the French released. That's why it's spelled like the French spell it. Dunkirk. Dunkirk. I wouldn't know how you pronounce that. Yeah, I got this one for free because they had a sale in the store I went to in France. Buy two, get one for free. So I got this one for free. This is 4K Steelbook. At that, beautiful artwork. I really like the film. It's not for everyone. It's not a war film like Saving Private Ryan or 1917 for that matter. It's a very unique kind of film, especially in the way it's edited, and the performances are great but very efficient. There's not really a lot of character development going on, but it doesn't really have to. It's a showcase in suspense. It's a exploration of suspense through editing and cinematography, and I love it. Dunkirk, the 4K Steelbook with Tom Hardy on the front. And there's something about Steelbooks by Christopher Nolan, and whenever he has sparks on there, they kind of pop in a different kind of way. The coloring is beautiful, the design is awesome, and yeah, it's a great film. With the 4K, it's even better. Now, diving into some Steelbooks I know you want to see. This is Batman Begins, the Steelbook that was released last year. Beautiful artwork, a gloss on there. Christian Bale is Batman, and the back is a mystery, and will forever be a mystery. The Dark Knight, this is the same artwork that was released on the Steelbook that was released last year, but this is not the Steelbook that was released last year, because it has this kind of blue thing. This is the Steelbook that was released when The Dark Knight was first released on Blu-ray, and I picked it up at Just Movies, because on the back we have just the information. There's no artwork on the back. It's just a very old kind of Steelbook, but I wanted to be a completionist, and because the Dark Knight Steelbook, of course, sold out instantly, I had to do it this way so that I could get the set, but kind of cheating. The Dark Knight Rises, my least favorite Steelbook out of the three, but still great. Bane versus Batman in that end fight. Fantastic trilogy in my opinion. I really love these films, and I really love Nolan's take on the character. And there is an arc there, there's a completed arc that is very satisfying in my opinion. Fantastic exploration of the character, fantastic trilogy. Up next we have Apocalypse Now, the final cut, the 4K Steelbook. There's so many discs in this packaging. There's the 4K version of the final cut, the 4K version of the Redux cut. I'll just take all of these discs out so we can go through them one by one. So, the 4K version of the final cut, the 4K version of the original cut, as well as the Redux cut, and the final cut on Blu-ray. Then we have the bonus features on a Blu-ray disc. We have the original cut as well as the Redux cut on Blu-ray. And then we have another bonus disc for the original cut and the Redux cut. So basically, this is the new bonus disc, and this is the old bonus disc for the previous version. Like, there's 6 discs in this edition, and yeah, it's a phenomenal film. It's a classic for a reason, and with this Steelbook, it's even better. Look at the design of it. It's a beautiful artwork, beautiful coloring as well, and yeah, it's a fantastic film released in a fantastic Steelbook. A Marvel classic. A film that paved the way for many superhero films to come and is now being made into a new reboot that is officially part of the MCU. It is Blade, the 4K Steelbook with a slipcover. Look at that. There are worse things out tonight than vampires. And then we have this Steelbook, which is beautiful. Wesley Snipes being all badass. Phenomenal Steelbook with some art cards as well, and 2 discs, the Blu-ray and the 4K. Yeah, the film is awesome. Some amazing fight sequences, action scenes, and it's cheesy. It's a very 90s kind of film. It doesn't really hold up all that well in terms of CGI, but I loved it when I was a kid, and I plan on watching it again. So yeah, the 4K Steelbook for Blade. Up next, we have Zombieland 2 Double Tap. A film that has received some mixed reviews, and the consensus is that it's not that great, but I haven't watched it yet, so I can't really give you my opinion on it. But I love the first one, and the Steelbook, the 4K Steelbook, is beautiful, so that's why I picked it up. Worst case scenario, it's decent, you know? What's the worst? What's the worst that could happen? So that's another batch of Steelbooks. Let me get the final, yes. The final batch of Steelbooks is up next. It's that one right there. So 1 second. So another film I picked up in Just Movies is District 9, the limited edition Steelbook, and probably the worst Steelbook that I picked up last year. It's a really bad design. It's a really bad design. It's like one of these Steelbooks that has just a Steelbook packaging with like a sticker on there, and the edges are not great, and the back is misaligned. Oh man, it's an awful Steelbook. It's really awful. But I didn't own District 9 on Blu-ray yet, so that's kind of why I picked it up. And you know, a Steelbook is always better than a regular release, right? So that's why I picked this one up. District 9, fantastic film. And I cannot wait to see what Neil Blomkamp does next. And I really hope that he gets to direct a sequel for Alien. A sequel to the original series of Alien, not the rebooted Ridley Scott version of Alien Covenant, which is a mixed bag at best. I really want to see what Neil Blomkamp can bring to this franchise, because I think his take on sci-fi is very unique, it's very special. Illustrated with this one. District 9 is a fantastic film. If you've never seen the film, it's really great. Pick it up. Because I'm stupid in a lot of ways, and I'm a dumb moviegoer, I picked up Transformers Dark of the Moon on a Steelbook. Yeah, this is like this is like the 3rd copy I own of this film. Yeah, these films are not great. I mean, we can all be honest about that. But why I love these films is the stupid action, Transformers transforming and just fighting. The siege on Chicago in this film is legitimately fantastic. The sequence where the building is broken in half and topples over. It's awesome. There's just so much great stuff in these films. Between all of the dog shit. Age of Extinction is dog shit though. I really don't like that movie. A Steelbook that I acquired last year for a film that has been released several years ago, but I hadn't really watched at any point, but I really am glad I've seen it now. Train to Busan. This is a double feature Steelbook with Train to Busan, as well as the prequel animated film called Soul Station. Yeah, this film is a legitimate masterpiece. It's one of the best zombie movies ever made. It's phenomenal. Watch it. Please do watch it. It's one of the best zombie films ever made. Fantastic concept. A zombie invasion happens, and our main characters are stuck on a train. And once the zombie infection gets on the train, they're stuck on a high-speed train with zombies. phenomenal film, and with an emotional punch that I wasn't expecting. Just, this film made me cry. A zombie movie that actually made me cry tears of sorrow. Like, oh, that's so sad. Oh man. I mean, I love this movie. It is so freaking great. And in honor of the sequel releasing last year in August, they released this Steelbook, which I was so happy I picked up, because it's absolutely stunning and it's a fantastic film. Like, that's always a win. Picking up a Steelbook for a fantastic film, that is always a win in my book. The sequel, however, I also picked up last year. This is Train to Busan Presents Peninsula. The sequel to Train to Busan, and with different characters and a different kind of setup. Fantastic steelbook, beautiful artwork, but the film itself is really disappointing. It's a showcase of a director not knowing what made the original appealing, what made the original special, and why the original is so beloved. The appealing to a Western audience with terrible American actors completely ruins this suspension of disbelief from the very opening of the film, and then it goes on to have one of the worst CGI I've ever seen. Fully CGI rendered car chases and car maneuvers that are literally impossible. Literally impossible, and it completely ruins my suspension of disbelief. And it's unnecessary. In an era where Mad Max Fury Road exists, hell, in an era where Train to Busan exists, you release a sequel that is so overly reliant on terrible CGI and just superhuman abilities that just don't make any sense. It's such a disappointing sequel, in my opinion. The performances are great. There are some legitimately fantastic character arcs in the movie. The ending is actually really emotional and well done. It's just a shame that by that point you're completely ripped out of the film. I wish this film was a lot better than it is. So if you want to pick this one up, think twice about it. You can skip this one. If you pick up Train to Busan, the original, you're set. That's the only film you need to watch in this series, because this film, I wouldn't say it's a piece of shit, because there was a lot of effort put behind it in terms of writing and performances, but the focus on the wrong things really ruined this film for me. It's such a disappointing movie. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to dive into some Star Wars Steelbooks. Last year, the entire lineup of Star Wars films were released on a 4K Steelbook edition, and I got my hands on some of them. Well, all of them that I wanted. There are some I didn't really want. Starting off with Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, or as it is called, just Star Wars. I love the design on this one. The original poster artwork as the Steelbook artwork, fantastic idea. Gives this design a bit of a nostalgic feel. Love the coloring, love the artwork, love the compositing of the characters. Just fantastic work on this poster. It's like one of my favorite movie posters of all time, and to have this artwork as a Steelbook, thank you so much. The bonus features on the back, 4K, regular Blu-ray, and a bonus disc. Fantastic release. Star Wars was then followed up by one of the greatest films of all time, Empire Strikes Back. This artwork is a little less impressive in my opinion, but it has one of the greatest movie characters of all time on it, so it kind of evens out Darth Vader and his amazing helmets on the front amidst a starry sky. Yeah, this artwork is a bit underwhelming, especially for such a great film, but it is still pretty great. Last but not least, the original trilogy ended with Return of the Jedi, and again resorting back to the original poster artwork. Fantastic design on this Steelbook. I love the fact that it all looks like an oil painting. Our favorite characters on the front, and on the back we have a half slip, so I might be able to peel these off the plastic, but I want to keep them pristine as a collector of favorite films. Moving on to the first steps into the sequel trilogy with The Force Awakens. I love this artwork, I love this poster. Again, fantastic that they chose the original international poster for their Steelbook. Love the coloring, love the compositing of the characters, and I love this film. So, The Last Jedi, again with a beautiful Steelbook with Luke on the top right there. For all its flaws, this film certainly has. I still love it. I still think it's a pretty great film, and a lot of you might disagree. Now, where most of you will probably disagree is with The Rise of Skywalker. Again, with a beautiful Steelbook, the blue and red, the contrast between the colors, fantastic Steelbook, and a pretty good film. Now, this might be controversial. I love the sequel trilogy. I think it's great. Is it perfect, or is it as good as it could have been, or maybe should have been? No. Obviously, the biggest issue with the sequel trilogy is that the lack of planning is apparent, and in some cases painfully apparent. For instance, The Last Jedi not even mentioning the Knights of Ren is a huge missed opportunity. Rian Johnson did provide what I feel is a great film and a great character study of Luke Skywalker. Most of you, or some of you, will disagree. A lot of you claim that Luke's character is being tarnished in Last Jedi. I disagree. I don't want to go into it too much, but I just feel almost lucky or privileged that I actually like the sequel trilogy. And if you disagree, you're more than entitled to your opinion. Look, I collect films that I like. That's basically what I do. That's why I didn't buy the prequel trilogy on these Steelbooks, even though the designs on those are pretty beautiful as well. I just don't like those films, and that's why I didn't buy them. I didn't pay up for them. I already own them on Blu-ray, and I didn't want to double dip for those films because I don't really like them that much. In fact, I plan on never watching them again. What I do love, though, is the Clone Wars series, which is probably the best thing that comes out of the prequel era of Star Wars. But I don't like those trilogy. I don't like that trilogy. I prefer certainly the original trilogy, and I also prefer the sequel trilogy. I don't know what that says about me, but for all its flaws, and there are very plentiful flaws in the sequel trilogy, I still do like those movies. I think the biggest issue that the filmmakers are facing with the sequel trilogy is the fan base. Trying to satisfy everyone, satisfy no one. That's the big issue. Because you had people who loved The Last Jedi, and you had people who hated The Last Jedi. Then you had J.J. Abrams, who set up certain things in The Force Awakens that didn't get further explored or even destroyed in The Last Jedi. And so he had to make a film, a conclusion to a trilogy that wasn't planned out, and he had to retcon things that were being done in Last Jedi. He had to reinvigorate things that were forgotten in Last Jedi, like the Knights of Ren. And he had to throw a Hail Mary pass with bringing back Palpatine. And for all of those obstacles and challenges, I think The Rise of Skywalker is still a very well-made film. But it should have been a lot better than it is. I fully realize and recognize that. But I liked the film better the second time I watched it, and I think I'm going to like it more with each consecutive watch. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I was disappointed overall because I got a fun trilogy. But I do recognize that Star Wars kind of deserves better than it got. And with The Mandalorian and with the series The Clone Wars and Rebels and certainly the final season of The Clone Wars, Star Wars is still alive. And with Kenobi getting his own series in the future, Mandalorian being fantastic, there is hope. There is still great Star Wars on the horizon. It's probably not going to be in films anymore. There are certainly films going to be released, but I think the trilogy ideas for Star Wars, I don't know if that's ever going to happen again. It probably will, because billions of dollars made on these movies. Billions of dollars. So it's a no-brainer that they would make another trilogy. But I think this advice has been beaten to death over and over again. Disney, if you're planning on a new trilogy, don't forget to actually plan a trilogy rather than just start off and just hope it all ends up well. Because for all intents and purposes, it's a miracle that this trilogy came together as well as it did, considering there was no plan at all. That's all I'm gonna say. Also, I got this Steelbook for The Rise of Skywalker. I'm looking around, seeing if there's one more thing I gotta show you, and there is. There is a collector's edition that I forgot to show you guys in the last episode of Blureel Studios. It's a David Fincher film. It's a film that I feel is really great. I remember my mother really loving the movie when it was shown on television. And when Arrow Academy released a collector's edition, obviously I had to pick it up. The film I'm talking about is The Game, and this is the collector's edition by Arrow Academy. A fantastic release, a ginormous release, a lot bigger than I was expecting. When I saw it on pictures, there was not really any reference as to how big it actually would be. And having it in my hand now, it's really weighty. But yeah, I love this film. It's pretty fantastic. It's David Fincher's, I think, one of his most underrated films. He himself has declared that he was the wrong person to direct this story, and I don't know if that's true, because he made a fantastic thriller. Michael Douglas is phenomenal in the film, so yeah, let's open this one up. So this is like a big cardboard sleeve, fantastic design. Consumer Recreation Services, which is the company or the entity in the film that sets up Michael Douglas to play this game, The Game. And within the sleeve we have a hardcover book. Within it, in the cover, there's the Blu-ray disc, and on the other side we have a DVD. I don't like this packaging for the disc, because the DVD is already showing some scratching, which is fine because I don't plan on watching the DVD. But if you have to slide it like this, of course it's gonna scratch up. Luckily, Blu-rays come with scratch protection coating, so I'm not that worried about the Blu-ray, but still, it's something I wish they would have done better. There's no reason why it couldn't have been like a pop-in thing, but it is what it is. The book, though, is fantastic. There's a card in there, the same card that Michael Douglas' character comes across and responds to, the CRS business card. Then we have the book itself, which is comprised of essays, behind the scenes, reports, the whole thing, reviews. It's basically in a gigantic book on how the film is made. Fantastic material to read on the toilet, which will never happen because I will not put this on or anywhere near a toilet. And this is going to be the final showcase on this episode of Blureel Studio. I want to thank you guys for your continued support on these videos. It's a lot of fun to make these because I just love talking about movies. I love talking about Blu-rays, and even though nobody's really listening, it's just for me, you know. I like doing these, and that's basically all there is to it. That's the only reason I really need to make these videos. And if some of you guys can enjoy them, that's a win for both of us, I feel. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the next episode of Blureel Studios. I promise you it's not going to take a year. I have released 3 videos in what is a very short period of time, so I'm pretty proud of that. If you want to check out my Apex Legends highlight videos, they're also on my channel. I made some Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar Editor videos in the past few months. So there's content coming out on this channel consistently, but if you're waiting for the Blureel Studios videos, I promise you the wait won't be a year anymore. I will continue making these as new films will continue to be joining the family. Also, I plan on expanding these videos on other things like I have an idea for doing like a random movie recommendation series of videos where I take any Blu-ray out of this shelf, or DVD for that matter, and talk about why you should watch it or even buy the film or DVD in question. I want to do movie reviews in the future, but for now, let's take it one step at a time. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next episode of Blureel Studios. Ciao!